Hello and welcome to the channel of Hashaliak once again. Today is the 18th of July 2024, although for some of you it's probably the 17th of July still. That's what happens when we all live in different parts of the world. But anyway, there's only one body. The recent events with Donald Trump had many people saying, this is a wake-up call. This is a wake-up call. The shot heard around the world. And as I was praying earlier this morning, I started to think about this wake-up call. And I was taken to a specific passage in the Gospel of Matthew. And so I started to think about how do we respond to this wake-up call? Are we going to be ready for some of the things that are coming in the very near future? And I mean very near future. So anyway, let me jump into just a small portion of the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 26, and I'm going to start in verse 26. And I just want to explain a few things as I go through. These are some thoughts that I believe God was giving me this morning in prayer. So Matthew 26, verse 26. While they were eating, Yeshua took a piece of matzah, the bread, made the baraka, the blessing, broke it, gave it to the Talmidim, the disciples, and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." It's like, as you read this, it's like it's quite forceful. Take, eat, this is my body. Also, he took a cup of wine, made the baraka, and gave it to them, saying, "All of you, drink from it." Again, it's that same type of urgency, force. All of you, drink from it. For this is my blood, which ratifies the new covenant, my blood shed on behalf of many, so that they may have their sins forgiven. So they may have their sins forgiven. Now, Jesus is obviously talking about something that's going to happen in the near future. This is my blood, which ratifies the new covenant, my blood shed on behalf of many. His blood has not been shed at that point, but he's talking about it now as though it's a done deal. So that they may have their sins forgiven. I tell you, I will not drink this fruit of the vine again until the day I drink new wine with you in my Father's kingdom. After singing the Hallel, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Yeshua then said to them, "Tonight you will lose all faith in me. As the Tanakh says, I will strike the shepherd dead, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered." Again, Jesus is prophesying they're all going to lose faith. He says, all of you are going to lose faith in me. Verse 32, "But after I have been raised, I will go ahead of you into the Galilee." "I will never lose faith in you," Peter answered, "even if everyone else does." Yeshua said to him, "Yes, I tell you that tonight, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. "Even if I must die," Kepha replied, "I will never disown you." And all the Talmidim said the same thing. Then Yeshua went with his Talmidim to a place called Gat Shmanim, Gethsemane, and said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took with him Peter and Zebedee's 2 sons, that's James and John. Grief and anguish came over him, and he said to them, "My heart is so filled with sadness that I could die. Remain here and stay awake with me." So he's heavily burdened. That is very, very obvious. And he tells us to the disciples with him. He says, remain here and stay awake with me. Going on a little further, he fell on his face, praying, my Father, if possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not what I want, but what you want. He returned to the Talmudim and found them sleeping. He said to Kepha, Peter, were you so weak that you couldn't stay awake with me for even an hour? Stay awake and pray that you will not be put to the test. The spirit indeed is eager, but human nature is weak. Stay here and pray that you won't be put to the test. Is there a test coming for Peter and the disciples? Pray that you're not going to be put to the test. A second time he went off and prayed, my Father, if this cup cannot pass away unless I drink it, let what you want to be done. Again he returned and found them sleeping. Their eyes were so heavy. So they're sleeping again. Leaving them again, he went off and prayed a third time, saying the same words. Then he came to the Talmudim and said, for now, go on sleeping, take your rest. The time has come for the Son of Man to be betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go, here comes my betrayer. Eat and drink so that your sins may be forgiven. You're all going to lose faith in me tonight. Prophecy. I will never lose faith in you, Peter said. Jesus said, oh yeah, tonight, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me 3 times. You will disown me 3 times. Peter responds, I will never disown you. Not me. And it says the disciples said the same thing. And so Jesus goes off with the disciples and to pray. And he says, right, stay here, stay awake and pray. 1 hour. And so Jesus goes off, falls on his face, and he asks if it's possible, if the cup can somehow pass him by. Remember, Jesus, full of God, full of man. This is him displaying the emotion as a man that's under great stress for what has to come. But he prays, and he goes and finds the disciples sleeping. They're not praying. So he's quite disillusioned, wakes them up and says, can you not stay awake for an hour? Pray that you won't be put to the test. It's almost like Jesus knows there's a test coming for all of them. Jesus and the disciples are going to be tested. So he goes off and he prays the same thing. Look, if this cup can somehow pass me by, then please let it pass me by. But not my will be done, but yours. He goes and finds the disciples sleeping again, not praying. So he goes off and prays a third time. And it said, he said the same words. He says the same words. Asking for the cup to pass him by. He goes back to the disciples and he finds them still sleeping. Then he shouts out, look! I mean, suddenly the situation has changed. The test is here. It's now here. There's no more time to waste. It's upon us. Jesus prayed 3 times. He strengthened himself in the Father. He wasn't keen on what was coming. and asked 3 times, is there a way that this can be avoided? But there was no way. He said, let your will be done, Father, not mine. He was strengthened for the test which was coming, which was for him to go to the cross so that sins could be forgiven. Jesus passed the test with flying colours. I will never deny you. I will never disown you. Eat and drink so that your sins may be forgiven. Was Jesus thinking about the sin that Peter and the other disciples were going to commit against him by deserting him later on? They all deserted him in the garden. I mentioned this in a recent message. They all deserted him. 3 times the disciples had the opportunity. Put that word in your head. They had the opportunity to pray and be strengthened and support the Lord at that time. The Lord needed the support. That's why he asked them to pray. He wanted their support. But he didn't get it. The disciples bypassed an opportunity to strengthen themselves for a test which they'd already been warned about. And they failed the test. The circumstances changed suddenly. It was upon them. Excuse me. And they all failed miserably. Still got a tickly throat. Jesus passed the test with flying colours. The disciples failed. So, what about us? We're about to enter some big tests, not just tests. Are we going to pay heed to the wake-up call and be found praying, strengthening ourselves and strengthening others? This is what I believe the Lord was giving me this morning. That event with Trump was a wake-up call for big things that are coming. Are we going to pass the test or are we going to fail? My friends, I'm praying that you will be strengthened and that you will be praying yourself and that you will pass the test with flying colours. Be found in prayer, my friends. God bless you this day.